Welcome to another episode of Remap Radio. I'm your host, Rob Zachney, and this is episode 99 for June 27th, 2025. Episode 99 feels really exciting. Way more exciting than episode 100, right? Am I alone in this? 99, like, cooler than 100?
Well, there's anticipation that you're going to do something cool at 100.
Yeah.
99, no expectations.
Yeah!
Well.
I love not having expectations. Should we do something cool for episode 100?
Like what? Like what? Like what are you going to turn around by 4th of July weekend?
Tangents.
Is that different than what we normally do? Or is it just...
No, we have a very strict planning document that we stick by.
Today we are joined by Chia Contreras.
Hello.
Patrick Klepek.
Hello.
And Jana Garcia.
Hello.
As always, we're a listener and reader-supported show and website. If you enjoy Remap Radio and wish to become a supporter, you can learn more at remapradio.com/sign up, or just click the orange button in the upper right corner of the website. Our subscribers let us keep doing the shows, the streams, the articles that define Remap. So let's get to today's topics. Another great week in video games. I guess we should lead off with the Xbox layoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to lead off with the Xbox layoffs because we don't know what the Xbox layoffs are. We have a report from multiple reporters, including Jason Schreier and at Bloomberg and Tom Warren over at The Verge, suggesting the headline over at Bloomberg is Microsoft plans major job cuts at Xbox gaming division. Quoting from Jason here, managers within Xbox are expecting substantial cuts across the entire group, according to people familiar with the plans who asked not to be identified, discussing non-public information. The company declined to comment. This will be the fourth big layoff at Xbox in the past 18 months, following 3 major cuts last year and the closure of several subsidiaries. Xbox, which produces video game hardware and software, has been under pressure from Microsoft executives to boost profit margins since purchasing Activision Blizzard Incorporated for $69 billion in a deal that closed in 2023. So, as of this recording, we lack specifics. Those specifics may come out between now and the publishing of this podcast. But, in terms of like broader, we've touched on this, in last week when we discussed the sort of surprise announcement, I guess it can be taken as a surprise that Microsoft will produce more hardware. It now becomes an open question on what is the nature of Microsoft producing hardware. Do you become, I don't know what this, maybe you can help me out here, Rob. What does OEM stand for?
Original Equipment Manufacturer.
Right. And in that way, like, are we heading towards a world like where an OEM, like the way it functions, like is like you have an original spec, right? Like maybe Microsoft makes a box, but everything as an Xbox is just what actually becomes the extension of what Microsoft is in the future. And if they've made that decision, they're in the midst of that pivot where they're no longer going to be a console manufacturer in the traditional sense. You start to imagine a world in which how Microsoft is structured, organized, the kinds of people you need, the kinds of production lines you have, like internally, externally, something a very different style of company. One very different than the one we imagined, even just a couple of years ago. And so, to Janet's point, it feels like one of the consequences of Microsoft putting up their hand and being like, we planned this all along as they pivot for the 5th time. A natural extension of that is people caught up in the wake of that, which is a squeeze on a change in direction. And if your job profile doesn't fit that change in direction, which they're going to sit and go, this is what we planned. Well, a natural question, a follow-up question is, will you plan to lay off all these people as well? Which is sort of feels like, without the specifics of these layoffs, I think generally we can look at Microsoft as a company in transition, and a lot of people are going to lose their jobs, be hurt along the way, as both a squeeze of Activision Blizzard sort of, quote, redundancies in corpo speak, but also just, we've decided to go in another direction, and we no longer need any of these people to make it happen, even though that's what we were doing 6 months ago, but we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah, it feels like they pursued every strategy for a time, and now they're trying to sort of cobble one together that lets them basically like move toward this this publisher model with like a branded platform that is less and less relevant as like a product you are selling. But it's a very strange thing, and there does not feel it. None of this has felt particularly deliberate, right? And I guess now flashing back, did the acquisition spree feel particularly deliberate? Like, obviously they decided they were going to make as many acquisitions as possible. But I don't know, like the Nickelodeon toy run is not like let's not like kids are not being strategic when they're on the toy. Well, maybe some kids are being strategic.
I think they're thinking about it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I think the curiosity, which of course we will very likely never know, was the sort of pivot from hardware manufacturer to third-party publisher. Was that always kind of in the background on the table as like a failsafe for, you know, the exclusives thing not panning out? Or, you know, it just kind of like, at what point did the plan change, and at what point was this like kind of new plan introduced? I think is sort of the question. But it is definitely odd to have had such like that acquisition spree, only to which was like sold to the consumer as this is our way to get exclusives. You know, they went to court and said PlayStation keeps making The Last of Us again, and we don't have a way to do that, so we need these to be competitive in the market. Only to pivot to, you know, basically being a third-party publisher. They still do benefit from having those exclusives, like, under that plan. But it's not it doesn't seem, unless they were just lying, it doesn't seem like it was originally, you know, what was set out to happen. But, yeah, it makes sense to me that this kind of pivot would occur given, you know, everything we talked about with, as the business model changes, so does the, you know, the needs of the company, and the people that always end up suffering from pivots and fumbles are the people that work at the company to make it what it is in all of its iterations.
And I mean, like Microsoft, Microsoft has extensively laid people off outside the Xbox division as well. There's been sort of a broader like anti-labor backlash in tech across the board, but Xbox does seem to be getting particularly hammered, and part of it does seem like the vision didn't come to fruition, and now we're just going to okay, so one of my favorite jokes that a friend of mine told me, his family were Polish emigres, but this is a communist joke. Like, a bunch of people like riding a train. And the train is taking them into the future. And on the train, you have Stalin, you have Khrushchev, and you have Brezhnev, the three leaders of the Soviet Union from like World War II through the 70s. Train breaks down. Nobody knows what to do. Stalin says, "Don't worry, comrades. I know how to handle situations like this. I'll get this train moving again." And he stands up, and he goes and he shoots the engineers. Everyone freaks out. Train starts moving again. After a little while, it starts to run on steam again and breaks down. Stalin moves to get up, and Khrushchev's like, no, comrade. I know how to handle situations like this. Khrushchev gets up and makes an inspiring speech. Everyone loses their mind. They believe in this train. Train starts to move again. After a little while, it runs out of steam again. It breaks down. Khrushchev takes a deep breath, about to start speaking. Brezhnev says, no, comrade. I know what to do. Let's pull down the shades and pretend we're still moving. And that, to me, is Xbox. Like that, to me, is where Xbox has ended up at this moment, where every single thing has been like, all right, the big boxed console thing. You know, this is the future. This is the future of Xbox hardware power. It's going to be incredible. All right, well, the hardware power. What's going to augment that? The biggest, most prestigious library of games you've ever seen, all brought to Game Pass. And now, like, literally last week, it's, what if your Xbox could be a little ROG branded device that you, like, maybe hook up to your TV? Maybe you're just like, maybe your Xbox could be your PC. Who knows? But in the meantime, the game production pipeline looks pretty choppy, and it feels like you're kind of in this death spiral of layoffs reduce your future resources for changing new strategies. Like it's like the goal might be to boost profit margins, but layoffs also reduce capacity, right? If the path you are not on is not succeeding, you're having major layoffs, your capacity to change course is probably going to be diminished. Like, I'm sure the way this will be talked about is, oh, well, yeah, these are positions that don't really align with the strategic vision. And that might be true up to a point, but presumably you hired a lot of these folks before. These are folks that you didn't decide to lay off in your previous job cuts. So I'm going to assume these were people who, managers, etc., people who know were like reluctant to let go. This is like the cutting into the bone stage of this, and that doesn't easily lend itself to figuring a way to sort of dig up, right? I don't know. I don't know what the future of this thing is. It feels like every month or two, I start to wonder, like, Phil, do you know what's going on? Where are we going with this?
Well, there's a great irony in that I feel like for a decade, it's felt the line has always been Xbox feels like they're a year away from being a year away. Almost like the rebuilding of a sports team. Like what you tell yourselves, like, okay, like we got this acquisition. Are we going to be good yet? No. But like we're building a foundation. Like I can see it coming around the corner. And Xbox has been perpetually for an entire, like, essentially 2 generations, a year away from being a year away. And they come to this point, and now actually, if you glance at their lineup, like it's pretty solid. Like they have a lot of excellent games coming out at a regular clip. Also contributing to a genocide. But gotta have it all. Microsoft, big company. But they did the thing that they got dinged for ages. And they have that now, which is, we're publishing, whether it's games we've homegrown or acquired or combinations of 2. There are games. Where are you going to play them? Like TBD, like not sure about that part. So it's like the software part finally sort of came up to what they were pitching on the hardware level just for the hardware stuff to bottom out. And then that collides with, I think like, an AI obsession happening at Microsoft, a pivot to more reliable sort of services and money and the kinds of live service games that Activision has, right? Like your Candy Crushes, your Call of Duties, that lines much more neatly with enterprise level, like software and the kinds of money that Microsoft makes in many cases, as opposed to the boom and bust of like, is a game a hit or isn't a game a hit? Which then makes Game Pass make some level of sense within a company like Microsoft, because at least a subscription service is a standardized level of like, it ebbs and flows over people like subscribing and canceling, but it fits sort of like a cash flow profile for like how a company like Microsoft makes money. So them whittling down Xbox into something that fits the form of Microsoft, while Sarah Bond and Phil Spencer and all those folks like, no, like this is, at the same time though, like every time Spencer goes out there's always some version of a line now these days in the last like year or two that's been like, hard choices. Gotta make hard choices. Like, but who's buddy, you're sure making it sound like you're not responsible for those hard choices. You're not involved in those hard choices. And
that passive voice will do a lot for you if you know when to drop it in there.
Right. And is it entirely possible that many of the like meta level like pivots that Microsoft has made, especially into like cloud and AI, is exerting an enormous amount of pressure on the like slightly unique model that Xbox holds within Microsoft? Sure. But also, buddy, you weren't hired yesterday. Like, you've been running this division for a substantial period of time. Now, the hierarchy is a little different, Sarah, but these people, these faces, like this leadership, you've been steering this ship for a real long time, in a way that at a certain point, you know, hard choices have to be made are just a fancy way of saying, like, we failed.
Yeah, it is. It's funny that you bring that sports analogy, because I was also thinking of the class. I don't know if this is just like a general idiom or if it comes from like a specific quote, but we didn't lose. I just ran out of time. Like, that's Xbox, baby. But yeah, it is.
No, that's me in rematch. Like, that's what I'm yelling at the screen. We'll get into that later.
Yeah,
I didn't lose. Just the counter came down. I didn't have time to score before the counter ended.
Honestly, that you're really valid for that, and I guess in a way so is Xbox, right? But like, yeah, it is unfortunate that the second they finally have like some good exclusives, or even just things that have like you know, an Xbox branded like marketing push, where it's like, oh, is this going to be the reason to dust off my Series X? And they're like, no. And I was like, damn, the reason never came. That's why, like, and you know, and I do think we'll see what the future holds. They have their the ROG Xbox Ally. Yeah, boom, did it. They have that. I know people have been writing and talking about like the sort of like, it's funny in games where it's like, is it a rumor or is it a wish? But people kind of wishing that like, oh, maybe the next like traditional home console Xbox will like have a similar Steam integration. Like, it'll just be a PC. We're back full circle. It's the PC console. You know, I'm at the Pizza Hut. I'm at the Taco Bell. I'm at the combination of Pizza Hut and Taco Bell. And then and this is how we win, you know, but it, is it? And also, is that going to happen? We're banking on a lot of speculation and hopes. And also, I think a lot of those things, again, it's not really Xbox. It's Xbox like adding their name to someone else's project, which again, you know, perception is everything. If it ends up being perceived as like an exciting console, I mean, you know, specifically you and me, Patrick, have talked about all the time of loving how can you make this where it's console comfortable, idiot proof, chill, quick, easy experiences to have like PC wise. So there's definitely like a demand there. But again, like, it is, Xbox definitely does give. There's a restaurant up in the valley that makes like hot chicken sandwiches, and I like hot chicken sandwiches. I ate at this restaurant. The sandwiches, they're all right. Like, I didn't need to go back. I didn't really need to go back there. And I've been watching this business struggle for months, because at a certain point outside, what do they put the signage as? We have smash burgers now. I said they're cooked. They're fucked. They're fucked. I said, oh my God, it's over. It's so over. Isaiah's like, let me try the smash burger, see how it is. He's like, it was all right. And then literally the other day, we drove by there. I looked out the window and I started screaming. I took my phone out. I started recording. I'm going to send an image of what I saw and then say it aloud for people that are obviously not seeing the image, because no one is. They said, now serving breakfast burritos. And I was like, oh my God. And Xbox
everything's an Xbox. Breakfast burritos, smash burgers, hot chicken.
Xbox is now serving breakfast burritos. And look, I'm not going to lie to you.
That is the cruelest way for someone to have described the last 10 years of Xbox.
And I'm not going to lie to you. As a lover of food and a lover of games, I'm going to try out the breakfast burritos, but I don't feel good about it. I don't feel good about it. I don't think it's going to work out. You know, I don't have any delusion about that, but yeah, legitimately, I will be trying the breakfast burritos, and I also will be, you know, keeping an eye on what's going on with Xbox. But it is like it's not going good. It's not going good.
Honestly, though, here's the thing. By some tokens, it's not like Xbox is serving breakfast burritos. It's like they're saying from 7 to 11 a.m., we're going to have a different company coming in and do a breakfast burrito pop-up in our restaurant.
It is kind of like that.
There's layers of the grimness here. And I think some of it, I do wonder if I wind again. I don't think we'll ever know, and maybe at some point we get like a self-exculpatory sort of recounting of his years at Xbox, or maybe some point we get the real story. But I do sometimes wonder. Spencer's associated with the acquisition spree as like that was sort of his signature move, but I do wonder, like, Microsoft had prior to that also been focused a lot on acquisitions. That was just sort of a that's been the growth strategy for big tech companies now for a decade or more. I do wonder to what degree was, sometimes the strategy you choose is the strategy you can pitch. This is often like, why did this game get made? Why did the
live
publisher make
service
this
question,
piece of shit?
right? Like because you think you can get the budget because you pitched the live service game, even if it's not the thing that you want to make, but you make something.
Right. And so, like, I don't know to what degree was, Microsoft's overarching corporate structure, to what degree were they just saying, like, acquisitions across the board? Xbox, like, you also need to have a strategy to increase the value of Xbox through acquisitions. And they did, but games are, to your point, Patrick, games are different. They are not services or platforms in the way that a lot of other Microsoft products are. And I wonder to what degree as well, a lot of us, I think, were very, I don't know that we were bullish on Game Pass, but it was cool, right? It seemed like a good deal. It seemed not clear if it was going to work out for people who make games, but it seemed like a good deal at the time. And now, though, as we've learned more about how artistic, like how media products work when they go on a platform, the media products themselves get devalued, right? Like, Spotify has been a disaster for people whose business is making music. It's been very good for Spotify, letting you play music through the platform, but if you are paid by the play, or ideally, you're paid by the album purchase, Spotify has massively devalued what you do, and that's sort of been a trend across the board. That was also a question with Game Pass. Was it going to train people out of buying games? And I don't know to what degree it did or didn't, but the thing is, you can't really make a Spotify of games because there's just too few games. They're too hard to make. Like, ultimately, you do have to solve the problem of you're going to need to have products people get excited about. And for a long time, I think Microsoft failed kind of miserably at that part of the assignment. The acquisitions were big news. They were exciting. Press liked covering them. They were interesting to talk about. But it didn't generate the wealth of great games that you'd hope to see. And I think some of the way that Microsoft operates is just antithetical to producing that, because boy, we just like this to be we would love it to be a platform that produces like recurring revenue, that we don't need to figure out how to sell all these individual products. Can we just like figure out a way to sell one thing, Xbox, and not be bothered with how do we make people care about this or that game individually? But regrettably, that is the business you are in. That is like, there's just not enough happening in games. You're not going to make it. It seems like you couldn't make Game Pass like sort of the subscription alternative to Steam, where like all games just flow onto Game Pass and people are all just paying you money for Game Pass. Ultimately, especially if you're now also in the publishing business, you need to be able to put things out that are going to get people excited. But then their strategy of like, well, Xbox could be anywhere, just continue to sort of take an axe to reasons to buy an actual Xbox product.
The real Xbox was the friends we made along the way. Also, you said Game Pass, and then 1 second later you said ultimately, and I needed you to know that. That's really funny. But I think with Game Pass too, besides the fact that it like has the risk of devaluing a product, and also has maybe like general sustainability questions in terms of like, what are developers getting paid, and does it make sense to like invest X amount of dollars in making a game only to inherently like generally not sell it, instead just sell it as kind of part of your subscription model. I think the other downfall of Game Pass is all the changes that have happened over the last couple of years with not just price hikes, but like limitations to what the service is, where it's like, if you don't really have, I think at this point, Ultimate is still like the highest one. I kind of lost track of the names after a while, but like there's one you need to actually like really get day and date, and then there's or like to have stuff like, you know, the release games, but release like if you buy the early edition or like buy it, you get it early, but then if you're on Game Pass but not a high enough tier, you don't get it until later. Like I know Indiana Jones had cases like that, and the more and more there's like asterisk stipulations changing prices and changing like what you get with your dollar, the worst Game Pass has kind of been as like a value proposition even to the consumer, where when Game Pass kind of first came out and was like in its earlier phases, it was this exciting thing because it did have just like immense value. It's like, wow, look at all these incredible games. This is like the most souped up humble bundle you've ever seen, but it goes on forever. Like it was just like this. And it also made sense with, I think, where society had been moving, where it's like, yeah, everything's kind of going subscription model. Like, why not games? Games are so, da, da, da. And it was all good. Can people call, you know, Xbox? I don't know if Xbox ever called this, but people, again, I always talk about the streets. The streets were saying it's the best deal in gaming. And it really did feel that way. Like, I'm sure I've said that on content. Have felt that way for a time. And then as time went on, you don't hear that anymore because it's not. Like, it just isn't. And I think it's like the combination of it raising the price, it changing what you get, and also the reality of there's X amount of things on Game Pass. And the longer it's out there, the less like exciting it kind of is, because chances are if you were a Game Pass subscriber, even though there are new things filtering in and out, and it kind of becomes like a subscription ship of Theseus, chances are a lot of those games you might have already played. So it starts to kind of dwindle, you know, what you're really getting with it anymore as well. So, yeah, I think it's kind of been the downfall of Game Pass for a bit. And I think there's a reason that like get Game Pass is like not as shouted as much anymore from like Xbox. It's more of the Play Anywhere is kind of their new thing, because they're like, we just want to make sure that when you're having fun, you saw our logo and that you remember that we're part of that fun, instead of it being you turn to me for fun. It's you have fun and I'm there. You're laughing, I'm laughing, we're all buds.
Yeah.
But even their Play Anywhere stuff is like they're technically speaking. So they were one of the first to push like, hey, cloud gaming is going to be important. Like on any device you can play our stuff, and they were kind of first to that, in making it workable. But that's be a shill for NVIDIA's GeForce Now. Watch the wheel of GeForce Now.
I almost did this too. I was like, I'll seem like a shill if I bring this up.
It is I have used Xbox Cloud Gaming. It is a fundamentally like meaningfully worse service, technically, playability, than what NVIDIA is going on with GeForce Now. So like one of their like big early pushes, and my understanding is that is a huge part of like the hardware. It's based on like older hardware, right? Like the machines you are connecting to are just not as powerful as what's being connected to on NVIDIA's side. There's other stuff going into that, but that is one of the base level things. Is like you're just getting a more meaningfully powerful experience by connecting to a game through GeForce Now. So it's like, well, one of your big things is like play games like how they're meant to look. Like, okay, I guess I'll do that on a different service. Like that's and you see like, right, like this is why you're seeing one of their other pivots is like, oh, we're gonna build an everything app, right? Like Xbox, the everything app, which that phrasing has gone very well elsewhere. Like people just love an everything app. It's like I have this game here, like I own a license to it. Do I want to launch it through Xbox Cloud Gaming? Do I want to launch it through GeForce Now? Do I want to launch it natively through the PC I'm on? And it's like, bro, we built a launcher for your launcher. And like that might be like that couldn't like conceivably be good. But like, do you trust Microsoft to be the one to like make all that work smoothly? I don't know, man. That seems like a homebrew thing. That seems like some weird guys in a basement are gonna make the launcher for my launcher that does what I want because it won't have the layers of corporate nonsense associated with it. So it's just it's one of those things where like I feel like you watch some of the Microsoft Xbox friendly websites and they're like, shh, future is bright. So yeah, because they invented a new future, which means we're once again a year away from being a year away. And they're just talking how you might be good.
They're like, have you had these breakfast burritos? They're really incredible. They're doing so many amazing things at this restaurant.
This is a complete side note.
Please.
But this is a thing that does, like, it bugs me so much that restaurants can't just specialize in the thing anymore. Because I think this is across the board. Like, every fast food joint is now like, and check out our breakfast menu. You gotta serve breakfast now. Like, you know that thing that thing you like? We put an egg on it. Or we folded it over and put eggs and potatoes in the middle of it. Here you go.
Okay, I'm trying. Hold on. Like, you had me with the lack of specialization, but you lost me with infusing more things with breakfast is a bad thing.
I mean, look, breakfast is my favorite meal, so I'm not gonna sit here in general, I'm also fond of the, if you put an egg on something, it becomes a meal. Like,
yeah, I'm with you on the, like, you open up the first page of the restaurant hands you their menu. It's like, this is what's good, and then you turn to the second page. It's like, but also we have everything you could get at an IHOP. I'm with you on, but I don't know. I put an egg on it. I don't know. I might be okay with that one.
I guess it's more like the like, this part of like the arc of Dunkin' Donuts, where it's like, actually we're just Dunkin' now, and the donuts are now like sub Entenmann's quality that you're gonna be getting.
Were they ever good?
I am sad to report I don't believe they were ever good. I grew up having exclusively Dunkin' Donuts because Chicago, and I'm like, yeah, I would be buried in here. I go here like multiple times a week. I would get the number 2 special back when that existed. 2 donuts and a coffee. Yeah, it's great. I love it. No, it's awful, actually. It is very much like, it's very much like you get away, you go out into the world. It's like, then I left Chicago, tasted other donuts and coffees, and realized even by chain standards, this is one of the worst things you can ever consume. It's really, really bad.
Nope.
Now you're losing. I was with you, and then you lost me.
It's a Patrick. We've run into the generation gap thing again. Janice describing
because you were
this
there
thing
when
as,
it was
like,
good or
leaving
something.
Chicago. How old were you when you left Chicago?
I was like, let me think, 25 is just my guess.
Dunkin' Donuts had stopped making. They'd started trucking in donuts from offsite. Like, old school Dunkin' Donuts had little donut guy in the commercials, and they had a guy at every restaurant making the donuts.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
what year was this happening? Because I don't think it happened while I was alive. Yeah, that's not really well. Yeah, I mean, but that's like a problem, right? It's like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like if you haven't been good for, what would that be, 90, 2000,
oh no, like,
40
for like 15,
years?
20 years.
We're talking about we're talking like 30 years of time. I think at that point you're just not good anymore, and like what you used to be is a fun fact, not who you are.
I agree, but
it's giving. I would have played professional if I didn't twist my knee at the big game on homecoming sophomore year.
Part of what drove that strategy, though, was Dunkin' Donuts, like, corporate being like, people want breakfast sandwiches, and so they were like, de-emphasize the donuts and emphasize more like the same like takeaway breakfast options that every place has. But like, every place now kind of does that. But part of it, I think, is also because commercial rents are brutal. I remember, like, there's a diner near us in a complete like shitty space, but we were talking to the owner, and she was explaining that a real estate person had tried to get her to lease a slightly better location, much more modern, much nicer place, and they wanted her to pay $10,000 a month for this space. And I'm sitting there eating an $11 like 2 egg, 2 slices of bacon, 2 slices of toast thing. You know, it's pretty cheap, pretty classic diner stuff. But like, how many of those do you have to move to afford $10,000 a month?
Yeah,
it's so
much. Insurance, a bunch of other things.
If your hot chicken place ain't earning in the morning.
But the thing is, like, there are hot chicken places, and I go to over this place, because the thing is, you're just not good enough. Is also the layer. And location probably plays a factor too, because, you know. But I ate the hot chicken, and it was not bad. but I wasn't running. Like we drive much farther than this place to get hot chicken.
Good hot
Why
chicken
is
is
that?
transcendent.
Yes. And the place I go to isn't even the best I've had. It's just like pretty good. So it's like I'm not even going to the it's like I'm like brushing over it to go to like S tier. I'm brushing over it to go to like an A tier, which is still like a high tier, but it's like, yeah, why would I have your B tier when I can have an A tier? And then it's been this weird relationship. B, maybe C, I don't know, BC. Like there is fine. Like it's like if you ate it, you wouldn't be like, oh, this is not good. But you wouldn't. But you'd be if I took you there and said like, check this out. You'd be
C's
like,
average, right?
Relax. C is you have an understanding of the assignment. I think they're maybe a little bit higher than that. Maybe a little bit. But I don't know. The point is, I don't think it's going well because this is their third pivot.
No, it's
and I'm gonna be
it's
back
not.
because I want to see what's going on. But
But
You don't think it's
you're
a
not going
pivot?
to eat there. You're just like sort of like
no, I would
peering
eat
through
this.
the window. Okay.
No, I would eat the burrito just to see what it's like because it's like everyone lines up to see the Titanic sinking. So yeah, like I'm no different than other people. Like I'm gonna show up and you know, you check it out and you see what's going on. You know, this is a fixture in the community.
The band's
also-
playing on the deck of the listing Titanic. Janet's in the background. So could I get a double stack of those smash burgers?
Yeah, we're not getting off here. But yeah, like it, you know. But I mean, they've been here for a while. They've been here longer than I thought. I was like, this place is, especially like in LA. I feel like more so than other cities I've lived, is brutal out here. Like there will be things opening, closing. Like it's really challenging. They've lasted longer than I thought, which so is Xbox to a degree. So I don't know. I don't know what the future holds, but I don't think I'm eating at this restaurant with my Xbox ROG LA, with my ROG Xbox LA anytime soon. But I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe like
That's the future
imagine
Xbox
at
hopes
the end
for.
of the movie, Janet pulls in there in the morning, gets out of the car, orders herself a breakfast burrito, sits down with the Xbox ROG Ally, and is just like, in the end, it's all pretty good. This is fine.
People don't know what they're missing, is what I'll say,
Yeah.
as they're like boarding up the place and selling the last bits of Xbox branding off into the ether. But
And
Yeah.
as you're taking a bite of that breakfast burrito, someone's coming through to sell them on the location, and it's Phil Spencer opening his dream joint, a froyo stand.